All right, so let's get started. As I just said, starting today, and all the lessons from here on out is going to involve y equals mx plus b. It is going to involve stuff you've already learned, but it'll be presented in sneaky ways or slightly different ways that will force you to think. But the final goal of all of these questions is still the same. I want an equation because an equation is so useful. And if you want an equation of a line, you need a slope, and you got to figure out the letter b, which is y-intercept, the initial value. That's your goal. It's so important. I'm just going to write it. Let me annotate. Write your goal or equation. Okay. Somehow, whatever method you know, your goal is to find slope and y-intercept. That's it. How you do that is the tricky part. Sometimes I will give you both information. Sometimes I'll give you both indirectly, and you got to find it. So let's take a look at some examples. The first one is what we did last class. It's exactly the same as what we did last class. I give you the slope, and then I give you a random point, hoping that you can calculate the b value on your own. And now if I can find my stylus, you can finally get going. Here we go. Example 1. Okay, so literally think test example 1. Find an equation of a line. So find y equals mx plus b that has a slope, I'll do blue, of -1/2 and goes through a random point. So on the line, that is a potential x and that is a potential y together. So if you practiced yesterday, you will know how to do it. You'll be like, oh yeah, well, I know y equals mx plus b. And the question told me that if my slope is -0.5 and my x happens to be -6, it will add with something and it will give me a y value of -2. So you're literally plugging it in. And when you solve it, -2 equals 1/2 times 6, that's a +3 plus b. And that means to get b all alone, I will subtract both sides by 3, and that's a 5. Put that together, my equation is 1/2x minus 5. That was yesterday. And I'll put a little thing saying yesterday. Or for you, that was Wednesday. That was your Wednesday's class. So it was your OSSLT day, okay? So you could think about that as lesson 6.3. Take a look at another test question. I'm going to move through really quickly because you've seen this before. The next one might be slightly new. Find an equation of a line that's parallel to this line and also passes through -5. It's the same question, but I give you the word parallel. If you remember my lesson before, you know that parallel means we're going in the same direction. Oh, that's terrible. We are moving in the same direction, but will never intersect each other. Which means I have the same slope. So my slope is going to be the same as this line's slope. It's going to be -1/5. And it passes through a point here. Let's do the same. Y equals mx plus b. If my slope is -1/5, and I multiply with an x value of -5, adding with the b value, my y is a 1. I solve it. 1 equals +1 plus b. And so b actually equals 1 minus 1. B is a 0. Therefore, y equals slope x plus 0, which I don't need. I'll pause right there. Some people are staring at me like I'm crazy. Please ask away, because this is still based on Wednesday's class. Ellie.
I understand, except for when you start adding like what negative 1 5, negative 5, I get lost there.
This part?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we are looking at the equation, are we okay with plugging in all the numbers?
Yeah.
Okay. What I actually was doing is solving the complicated portions. I have a fraction. So let me put a little arrow there. Small arrow, please. Small arrow. Okay, what's happening there is negative 1 over 5 is being multiplied by 5. So it's actually a multiplication with fractions. So multiply across. So negative times negative is a positive. 1 times 5. 5 times 1, 5. That's a 1. That's why I wrote it.
Right.
Yes, I was just doing, just simplifying it. Sid, question?
Oh, yeah, what is equals 0?
Well, again, let me do an arrow then. So let's go right here. We have 1 equals 1 plus b. I want to find b. That's my goal. Remember, in the beginning of the lesson, I said I need m and I need b. So I will subtract 1 from both sides. So b is equal to a 0, and that's a 0. So here it is. So it's all algebra. It all comes in, like all this other stuff that we did in previous units come into play. Okay. Are you ready? This is new. The next example is asking you to calculate slope if I were to give you 2 points. We've done this in a previous lesson. So I don't think it's beneath you, or I think it's above you, I mean. But just to give you better context, let's illustrate it. The point negative 1, 5 is negative 1, 5, somewhere up here. And 2, negative 8 is 2, negative 8, somewhere down there. I have 2 points. If I were to pretend that these 2 points were on a straight line, can you tell me what the slope is? Well, clearly the visual says it's a negative, but I want an actual number. Anyone remember how to calculate slope? Yep. Correct. So I'll just choose whatever, 5 and x here. Correct. Minus y over x. Yeah. So 5 plus 8, that's a 13. Negative 1 minus a 2, that's a negative 3. My slope is negative 13 over 3. So why did I suddenly switch up? You'll see. Some of you might see where this is going. If you go to the next example, you're going to have to do what we did in the previous example and what we did in this example together in one question. But it's still doable. So when you're ready, go to the next page and see if you can make sense of it. It says determine the equation of a line if I give you just 2 points. I don't give you slope. I don't give you y-intercept. I just give you 2 points. But graphically speaking, if I give you 2 points, graphically, do you think you can draw a straight line? And then graphically, do you think you can count for the slope? And graphically, do you think you can identify the y-intercept? If you can do everything that I just said on a graph, you should be able to do it algebraically as well, because they are both talking about the same picture. So let's take a look at how that works, right? And we're trying to move away from the graph because when you get older, grade 11 or grade 12 or even in university, they sort of expect you to know what it looks like in your head, and use that picture without graphing it for further calculation. So we're basically building a skill here. All right? Determine an equation. This is one question on its own. Determine an equation if I just give you 2 points. All right, well, what do I need again when we want an equation? All right, so what 2 numbers are the most valuable? What do we have to solve for if you want an equation? B and M. Yeah. Let's do M first because we just did it in the previous example. Your goal is M and B. We're going to do M first. And I hope everyone remembers this because they did so many homework questions. Y over X minus Y over X. 6 minus 4 to -6 plus 2, -4, 4 simplified, -1/2. Okay. Using that, remember, y equals, what would you do? Do you have B? Yes or no? Not yet. Do you have M? Do you have an X? And do you have a Y? So you can find B. Choose any one of these. So Arvin, just choose one. It doesn't matter. First one. If with a slope of -0.5, if my X value was -2, and I add it with B, my Y value would become a 4. Just like our previous example in page 1. You have an M, you have an X, and you have a Y. Just make sure you chose the X and Y of a single point. You can't mix it up. That doesn't make any sense. You have to choose one point. So this becomes 4 equals, multiply that, that becomes a +1. Minus both sides by 1, B equals a 3. Therefore, Y equals -0.5 X plus a 3. You can solve for an equation if I only give you 2 points. And again, that makes sense. If you can do it graphically, you should be able to do it algebraically as well. If I give you a point -2, 4 and -6, -6 somewhere here, and I give you a graph like that, well, visually, you should be able to calculate the slope. Visually, you should be able to find B. Why can't you do it algebraically? You should be able to do it algebraically too. That's it. Can we get you to practice that? Letter C, this exercise on the bottom is the exact same situation. I give you 2 points, you find the equation. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to try it. Might seem fresh for some of you. Some of you might be doing homework for the first time in a while. I'll give you 2 minutes. If you want an equation, you need M, the slope, and with slope, you can find B. Give it a shot. We can do it. All right, moving down, let me keep this. This will be a good example above. All right. I will erase this. Okay, starting with, if I have 2 points, the first thing I'm going to do is calculate slope. It's to the point where it should be almost automatic because you do slope so often. Y over X, Y minus, Y and X. This becomes 6 over 16 or 3 over 8, which is fine. From there, Y is equal to mx plus b. I will choose, why not just choose 8 and 7? The Y value is a 7. My slope is 3 over 8. And my X value is 8 plus b. If I multiply this out, this becomes 7 equals 3 plus b, and so the b becomes 4. The equation is y equals 3 over 8x plus 4. Yes?
Why is it 7 minus 4, not 1 minus 7?
It doesn't matter actually. Notice how I did the 0.87 first, and then I subtracted with the -8.1 after.
So as long as you don't do 7 minus 1, it's negative.
Correct. As long as the x and y points are right above each other and they match up that way, you can do whichever point first, and it will not matter. Okay. So B, so some of you are still copying that, that's fine. For those of you who are understanding it, I want you to take a look at B, read it, and see if you could solve it. Because again, there's no mystery with question B. It's just worded in a different way that gets you to think first and pause. But once you figure it out, it's like, oh, it's the same question all over again. It's just written a little more annoying. So try it. I'll give you just a couple of seconds while people are finishing their copy. Okay. The same stuff. I am looking for y equals mx plus b. It requires me to hunt down the m and the b. In this question, it says the equation of a line is what I'm looking for. They give me an x-intercept of -5 and a y-intercept of 9. Let's look at it visually before we approach it algebraically. A y-intercept of 9 is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The x-intercept, if you didn't know, is the exact same thing, but on the x-axis. In other words, -5. Knowing what an intercept is tells you that this is actually another way of giving you a point. And this is another way of them giving you a point. You have 2 points. If you understand what x and y intercept means, you realize this is the exact same question as A, but I didn't give you x and y directly. I gave you x and y indirectly. And you solve it. If using this, you're able to calculate m, they graciously already gave you the b value of 9. The y-intercept. Let's put that together. I'll give you a minute. Can you get me the equation based on this information? So, again, this question is really nice in that it gives you the y-intercept, but you still have to find m, y over x minus y over x. That's a 9 over a +5. So my equation, I don't even have to plug anything in. It's literally 9 over 5x plus 9. How nice is that? I don't have to calculate b because it's actually given to you. If you were savvy or lazy like me, you would recognize that and do less work. Right, Ethan? No. Ethan B? Right? Try to focus, please. Please, help me out. Okay. I'm going to leave D with you. I think you could do it by yourself, but please recognize x-intercept of 3 and y-intercept of 6 actually give you 2 points, but you have to be careful what number goes where. Where is the 0 and where is the 3? Where is the 0 and where is the 6? Please be careful. Right? But you can do that as homework. What I want to do for you now, final 2. The formatting here is terrible, so there. All right, here's my question. Find the equation of a line that passes through the following points, but these points are a little bit special. Now, I'm telling you that this is going to be either horizontal or vertical, but I need you to recognize how. Okay, I need you to recognize before it even comes in. So I'm going to put a little star, so I want you to do it too. Be able to recognize the line from its properties. Because if you can, you're going to save yourself so much time with without doing unnecessary math. Are you ready? I'll show you. Let's pretend you didn't suspect anything. You're like, oh, I remember a question where I only get 2 points. We did this on Friday, May the 6th. Right? Obviously. First thing we do is calculate the slope. So let's do it. Y over x minus y over x. And when you do this, 6 minus 4 is a 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is a 0. Two divided by a 0. Let's put it this way. Right? I have 2 apples. So I have, here's an apple, and here's an apple. It's a sweet apple right there. Okay? I want you to take these 2 apples and divide it into groups of 0 apples. How many groups do I have? Every single group should have 0 apples. How many groups can I divide this into? I'll say it one more time. Every group must have 0 apples. Every group. How about this? I'm putting these fruits in a basket. I'm creating a fruit basket. Okay? Every basket must have 0 apples. How many baskets can I create? Infinite. Listen to what I'm saying. I have 2 apples. I want to put them in baskets. Every single one of these baskets must have 0 apples. That's what I'm dividing by 0. That's what I'm saying. How many baskets do I have? In other words, it could be 1 million, it could be 2 million, it could be any number I want. This is undefinable. I love that song. Why are they listening to that? Yeah, so you could say it's infinite, but the more proper method would be undefined. You can't put a number to it. Do you recognize that from one of our lessons? When do we ever have a slope that is undefined? Yes, when it's like an elevator where it's up and down, right? So there's actually the equation. So if you remember that and you've memorized it, you'd be like, oh, that means x equals -2. Whoa, Mr. Kim, how did you get that? So let's back it up. Let's say you didn't memorize it and you were someone who actually thinks about it. Okay? First off, let's write this. You remember, it is a vertical line. And if you know that it's a vertical line, y values can be anything I want. But what did the x value always remain as? Look at the 2 points. No matter where we are on the graph, so let's quickly draw a graph. -2, 4 is here, -2, 6 is here. This is my vertical line. No matter where we go on this line, my x value is always -2. And so the equation is literally x is -2 no matter what. That's my equation, x equals -2. So again, there's a logical explanation behind everything. I'm just hoping that you're willing to agree with my argument and with my logic, and you're okay with expressing it in this way versus any other way that your creative mind might pick up. So we just say x equals -2. And any mathematician worth their salt, when they see that, they automatically know what that means on a graph. That you're talking about a vertical line. They're like, okay, so what? Tell me more. There's no explanation needed. They're like, okay, keep going. Same is going to be said about a horizontal. How does a horizontal look when we do this question? Once again, I give you 2 points and I say, hey, give me the equation. And you're like, oh, I remember doing these questions on May the 6th or May the 5th or May the 4th or whatever. I'm going to start by calculating the slope. Y over x minus y over x. This is a 0 over a -3, which is the same as a slope of 0. When have you ever seen a slope equals a 0? So it's definable, by the way. Right? Slope is a 0. So this is okay. And if the horizontal, right? If it is going to be horizontal, my question to you is, okay, well, I know y equals mx plus b, so that's going to be a 0. What is the y value going to be for my y-intercept? Look at the points given and recognize that the y value always stays the same. You can say the y value is always -4. So even b will be -4. The y-intercept will always be -4. Therefore, the equation is 0x minus 4, but why would I write 0x? It's just y equals -4. Please, without doing too much calculation, my hope is that you are able to recognize the line based on its properties. That's too dark. Okay. I hope you will be able to recognize a line based on its properties. Just from the slope alone, you trigger a different path of thinking. And that's it. Yes.
For horizontal, it makes sense for 0 times x1 0. But undefined, just you don't do it.
Yeah, for the undefined, the vertical, I can't multiply it with anything because there's no number to multiply. It's not defined. So we have to think of a different way of expressing that line. Everything else can be expressed as y equals mx plus b. But that vertical line has got a different thing going on. You have no slope, so we have to give an equation in a different way. That's it. So other people what I just said, some of you may not understand what the heck I'm talking about. I'm getting a better understanding of how Nate likes to think, so I'm giving it in a way that he likes to digest it. But for everyone else, like ask your own way and see if I could pick your brain and how you're thinking about it. I think generally speaking, see if you can identify that it's a horizontal or vertical just from what the slope tells you. Okay? Any other questions?